Have you ever been searching for an audiobook on Spotify and either A, it's over 15 hours, B, isn't included in premium, or C, both of those things? Well, then this is the video for you, because I am going to be going through both of my bookshelves here behind me of all the books that I have read physically and tell you if they are included in Spotify Premium and under 15 hours. If you guys didn't know, Spotify rolled back audiobooks a hot minute ago at this point, and I personally really love the audiobook option on Spotify just because sometimes I don't feel like reading a book physically. I want to listen to it instead. Everyone gets it. Everyone likes audiobooks sometimes, okay? So that is great that they now have and offer audiobooks, but you can only get it in like the standard premium subscription. Like student you don't get audiobooks. Sorry. Like I was on a student plan for a while when it first came out, so I never had audiobooks until I want to say like 4 or 5 months ago when I had to buy like a normal premium account. And you also only get 15 free hours every month. If you want to have more hours, if you want to listen to a longer book, you have to purchase like an add-on to get more listening hours for audiobooks. And you know, if you're already paying for Spotify Premium, you should have audiobooks included, right? So let's just get started on the video. I literally wrote down every single book on my shelves. I don't even know how many books that is, but I went through every single one and searched them on Spotify to make sure they're included in premium and under 15 hours. So let's start with the fantasy shelf. Alrighty, for the top shelf behind me right here, we have Throne of Glass and then ACOTAR. And I don't even know where my physical copy of Throne of Glass is right now. My husband's currently reading it, so it's somewhere around the house. But the first Throne of Glass book is included in premium and under 15 hours, but would I recommend getting into this series on Spotify? No, because like I said, you're gonna finish that book, the first book, and then you're either gonna have to wait until next month to do the next book when you get your 15 hours again, and then you are going to get to a point in the series where the books are longer than 15 hours. So maybe if you want to listen to the first book, see if you like it and want to get into the rest of the series, it'd be good, but not if you're like already fully committed and dedicated to reading the series. For this next shelf down here, we have House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig, and then House of Roots and Ruin. It is the second book in the Salt Sisters series, House of Salt and Sorrows being number 1, and this is like a dark gothic YA fantasy series. This first one is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. I'm not sure what the second one is a retelling of, like what fairy tale, but Aaron A. Craig does YA gothic dark fantasies on fairy tales, so they're really cool. I love these books and always recommend them. On to the next shelf, we have An Education in Malice. This is a dark academia fantasy and retelling of the classic vampire story Carmilla. This one is definitely, it takes a little bit to get into the plot, but once you get into the plot, it's pretty good. A Study in Drowning. This is another dark academia, more like YA fantasy dark academia, and this one is very, very good. I love this. Heartless Hunter. This is a YA fantasy enemies to lovers where she is a witch and he is a witch hunter. Farival by Stephanie Garber. This is a very, very, very popular YA fantasy series. It is definitely fun, but I love the Once Upon a Broken Heart series even more, and that series comes after this one. So I would definitely recommend this one for getting into Once Upon a Broken Heart. Unfortunately, Once Upon a Broken Heart is not under 15 hours on Spotify. The Cruel Prince, again, very, very popular. If you haven't read it already, what are you doing? This is one of my favorite fantasy series. This is also YA fantasy. And then The Stolen Heir, this is like a spin-off series that comes after The Cruel Prince. Onto these lower shelves, I'm not going to take it out, but Shatter Me, again, this one is like, would you really want to get into this series on Spotify? Probably not, because there's 9 total books including the novellas, so like you're not going to want to wait around Literally, you'd have to wait 9 months to finish the whole series if you're gonna wait for your credit to renew every single month for the 15 hours. But again, if you just want to feel it out, see if it's a series you'd be interested in, I would definitely maybe listen to the audiobook, see if you like the plot and what is going on. But I do like the Shatter Me series and I would recommend it, but probably not audiobook. The Teller of Small Fortunes. This is a fantasy about a traveling fortune teller, and it's really heartwarming and cozy. Definitely has some higher stake moments, a higher stake plot, but if you're looking for just like a cozy little listen, I think this would be good. These Hollow Vows. This is a YA romantasy with fae, kind of like a love triangle of a sort, and I ate this book up. I would definitely recommend this book. And then this one is a duology, and the second book is These Twisted Bonds. So if you read the first book, I would definitely recommend that you finish up the duology to find out what is going to happen with all of the characters. Again, this is kind of up to you if you are fine with waiting a month for your 15 hours to renew or not. I don't think that is as bad as like a whole book series. Small Favors, another one by Aaron A. Craig, and this one is really cozy feeling. Like, this one is definitely, it still has a dark aspect to it like other Aaron A. Craig books, but this one is definitely a little bit more cozier, a little bit more heartwarming, I would say. One Dark Window. Again, this is one that I feel like everyone has read already, and this one again is a duology, and I actually am currently listening to the second book on my Spotify Premium. This is definitely like a dark gothic adult fantasy, whereas Aaron A. Craig is YA dark gothic fantasy. This is adult. Prison Healer. This one is a trilogy, and this one I probably would not recommend listening to the whole trilogy on Spotify, especially after this first book, because this first book, there's a huge plot twist, ends on a huge cliffhanger, and I personally would not have or want to wait a month to read the next book. I wanted to pick it up immediately after finishing this one, so do with that what you will. Oh, and this is a YA fantasy series. Kingdom of the Wicked. This is another YA fantasy series, and it focuses on one of the princes of hell, Wrath, and then the other main character is a witch. These ones are really fun. Again, it's a trilogy, so you might want to stay away from this, but I think this would be worth a listen. Alrighty, that was everything on my fantasy shelf. You could probably see a theme. A lot of fantasy series take up my shelf, but we do have a handful of good standalones on there as well, or maybe like a duology where there's not too many books that you have to worry about. But now on to my romance shelf, and spoiler alert, there are a lot of books we're gonna go over. Not all romance, there's a little bit of fantasy and thrillers on this shelf because I have my book of the month picks on the bottom and then my thrillers on the bottom. So romance, thrillers, and fantasy fiction. Let's just get to it. First up, Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and also Nothing Like the Movies, but I don't have the physical copy of that. I have it on my Kindle. But this is a good YA rom-com, so cute. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, another super cute YA rom-com that I ate up, and the main character in this one is stuck in like a Groundhog's Day time loop on Valentine's Day to try and get it perfect, and I love this book. Sunkissed by Casey West. This is another YA romance, and this one takes place at a summer camp, and it is just super fun and flirty. The Summer of Broken Rules. Dare I say this is my favorite YA romance book. What Happens After Midnight. This is by the same author as The Summer of Broken Rules, and I don't love this one as much, but it's still like a fun little palate cleanser of a read. Spells for Lost Things. This is another YA romance. This one's a little witchy, and this one is definitely discussing heavier topics than some of the other YA romances that I have, and this one is just super sweet and heartwarming. I love not just the romance in this one, but like the friendship, the found family, and also like the magicalness. The Summer I Turned Pretty. Again, if you haven't read this one yet, what are you doing? Now we're getting more into like women's fiction or contemporary fiction where it is mostly just plot driven, but there is like sprinkles of romance throughout. First one is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't even know how many times I cried during this book. I lost count, but It was for like half of it. That is all I'm going to say. After I do another one by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and let me tell you, this one is one of my favorite books of all time. It focuses on this couple after they're married, but now their relationship is kind of at a breaking point, like divorce is on the table, so they're kind of reevaluating their marriage, their love for each other, and seeing what they can do to make it work. Also seeing like what they can do, like testing out how they would be separated. It is just very real and emotional and gut-wrenching. Daisy Jones and the Six, another Taylor Jenkins Reid. I will say the Spotify version of this audiobook said it's like the TV show tie-in. Not sure what that all entails, but I feel like this one would be an amazing audiobook because the whole book is like interview style, like the bandmates are being interviewed. So I just think that would be so cool to listen to. Honestly, if I'm gonna reread Daisy Jones and the Six, I would probably listen to it first just because I've already physically read it. So I think it would be really cool just to listen to all the different characters if they have multiple different characters. Just again, so cool. And The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, another Taylor Jenkins Reid. I also love this one. It's been a few years since I read it, but you can't go wrong with Taylor Jenkins Reid, honestly. All of the Emily Henry books are on Spotify under 15 hours. My mom is currently reading Happy Place, that's why I don't have it with me, and I don't have the physical copy of Funny Story, but book lovers, people we meet on vacation, and beach read, Happy Place, Funny Story, all of them on Spotify, so I think that's amazing. Love and Other Conspiracies. This one really surprised me with how much I loved it this year, but this is kind of a paranormal rom-com. The female main character is like a producer or director or something, and she hires this conspiracy podcaster and they do a show together. It is just so fun. The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley. This one's more of like a contemporary fiction that follows Isadora Bentley. I think her birthday is coming up. She's a university teacher. She's really just not ever doing anything crazy, so she decides to do things a little bit out of her comfort zone and discover what is going to make her happy in her life. It's really, really heartwarming. Me Before You. This book is devastating and gut-wrenching and will make you cry. You Again. When I think of like cheesy rom-com movies, this is what would be the equivalent in book form. As Seen on TV, just a fun, small-town romance. Where the Crawdads Sing, another one where I'm gonna say, if you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? This summer will be different. I know this isn't the first Carly Fortune book in this little... I don't even know if it's an interconnected standalone series, but this is the only Carly Fortune book I've read, and I really, really enjoyed this one when I read it in the summer. It's kind of best friend's brother, just like good summer vibes. The Kiss Quotient, this one really reminds me of something like Allie Hazelwood because it is women in STEM in the book, but also it has flirtiness, it has spiciness. The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. This is one of my favorite reads of the year. It's second chance romance, best friends to lovers, and if you love Happy Place by Emily Henry, you're going to love this. Love at First Book. In this one, the main character is a librarian and she's moving from Martha's Vineyard to Ireland to work for like one of her favorite authors. And then her love interest is the author's son. Is that just not the cutest thing ever? Sadie on a Plate. This one is like a culinary rom-com romance. It was super fun for me to read because it was definitely like in a different setting than I usually read for my romances. Like they're both professional chefs. Just so cool. The Hating Game. This is like an OG book talk and booktube book because this is the perfect workplace enemies to lovers rom-com. I just remember being obsessed with this when I read it, and immediately after reading it, I went to my now husband and I was like, we're watching this movie tonight because I just finished the book and I need to see if the movie is as good. No, it's not. And they definitely changed some things, but it was all right. The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson. In this one, the female main character is a professional baker, has her own show, And then the male main character is like a childhood friend, and he is a professional hockey player, and they are doing her show together. So fun. Unsteady, this is like a more tame version of Binding 13. The Roughest Draft and The Breakup Tour, these are both by Emily Wiberly and Austin Sigmund Broca. We're officially halfway there, you guys. Before I do, this is another one of like my favorites. I definitely want to reread this one eventually, but basically the main character is about to get married, but her like what if love interest is suddenly back in her life, and she's like questioning everything. Rewitched, this is a adult witchy fantasy where the main character is proving herself to her witch coven. Also, don't ask me why that book is on my romance shelf and not my fantasy shelf, because I don't have a good answer for you. To Love Jason Thorne and To Hate Adam Connor, just look at how adorable these are, first of all. But these are really fun, spicy romances. To Love Jason Thorne is like a childhood friends to lovers, and then To Hate Adam Connor is single dad, enemies to lovers, where he hires her as his nanny. I am like 95% sure that every Allie Hazelwood book is on Spotify under 15 hours. Every Ashley Poston book is as well. So we have The Dead Romantics, The 7-Year Slip, which is my personal favorite, and A Novel Love Story. These are all like magical realism romances. All of the books in the If Love series by Anna Huang. So we have If We Ever Meet Again, If the Sun Never Sets, If Love Had a Price, and I haven't read the 4th book yet, but it's on there. As well with Twisted Love, but beware, the books in this series get very long, and I think the last 2 are over 15 hours. Then we have Abby Jimenez books, Yours Truly, Just for the Summer, Part of Your World, and then the other Abby Jimenez books are on it as well, but I don't have those on my red shelf yet. But these are everything. I love Abby Jimenez so much. She writes romance, but there's so much more emotional depth to her romance books. The whole Rebel Blue Ranch series is on Spotify under 15 hours, so there's Done and Dusted, Swift and Saddled, and Lost and Lassoed. Lost and Lassoed is definitely my favorite of the series, but these are just such a good spicy cowboy romance palette cleansers. Same Time Next Summer and Summer Romance. These are both great summery romance reads. Again, they kind of remind me of Abby Jimenez because there are more serious discussions and serious topics in these books, so there's definitely a lot of emotional depth to the characters and romance as well. When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect, I really like Sarah Adams because she writes more like non-spicy books or closed door romance books, so I definitely like that because it's a little bit sweeter that way for me personally, but I love When in Rome. This is the first book in this little series, small town romance, and it's so cute. Then we have Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. In this one, the main characters kind of start out friends after meeting at a wedding, and then they start objecting weddings together. Really fun and unique concept. I'm not going to take them all off of my shelf because honestly that sounds like too much work, but I'm pretty sure all of Colleen Hoover, other than Verity and November 9, for whatever reason, are on Spotify and under 15 hours. All of her books are pretty short and sweet, very simple, so they should all be under 15 hours. Again, I have a lot of Tessa Bailey books right here, so I'm not going to grab all of them, but all of my Tessa Bailey books, It Happened One Summer, Hook, Line, and Sinker, Secretly Yours, Unfortunately Yours, and Fangirl Down are all on Spotify under 15 hours. Then we have Icebreaker, Wildfire, and Daydream. These are all in the Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace, and these are just like spicy, fluffy romances. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. This one is an alright fall read. This one looks like a fall read, but it takes place in the summer, so beware. But they're cozy, small town romances. They really do feel like you're in Gilmore Girls. The Spanish Love Deception, and The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. Christina Lauren, I'm pretty sure most of her books are on Spotify under 15 hours, but I have Love in Other Words, The Soulmate Equation, and Something Wilder. For Better or Worse and Plot Twist by Erin LaRosa. This one, super fun. It's kind of like The Game Changer, where she is a chef, has her own TV show, and then he is like a businessman, and they do not like each other, but they end up lovers. And then Plot Twist, this one is about the younger sister from For Better or Worse, and she is an author, and then he is an actor. And Archer's Voice, this is one of my favorite romances. It is just so complex and sad, but also heartwarming, like such a beautiful love story within. The Unmaking of June Farrow, this is another one of my favorite books of all time. This is a fantasy where the women of this family can kind of time travel. This one has a mystery included in it, and amazing. I'm pretty sure it just came out in paperback as well. If you don't want to listen to it, definitely get the paperback. The Spells Love, this is kind of another magical realism romance, best friends to lovers, and she ends up in this like alternate reality where her best friend has no idea who she is, but now she's trying to win him over. Kingdom of Sweets, this would be really good for this time of year because it is a Nutcracker retelling. First Lie Wins, this is a really cool mystery thriller. Ready or Not, this one does have the accidental pregnancy trope, but it literally happens like right off the bat. It's not like a surprise to you as the reader, like you know what the book is about going into it, but such a sweet journey of friendship and motherhood, and this one is best friend's brother again. The Husbands, this one is kind of like magical realism again, where the main character goes up to her attic and she has a husband out of nowhere, like does not know who this man is, but this man is like, yeah, we've been married for however long, like he genuinely thinks that is his life. So the main character just keeps going into the attic and she gets a new husband every time. The Ministry of Time, this is like a sci-fi fantasy, and in this one, the main character works for this company that like is time traveling, and they're bringing back these people from history who have died, but now like they're bringing them back before they died, and the main character kind of has to like show her assigned person from history like the modern world. I don't know, this one is very, very complex, and it has a hint of romance in it. Like there's some stuff that you would not expect in this book, and it is a really great read. 1-star romance. In this one, the main characters, the female main character being an author, and then the male main character leaves a 1-star review on her book, so they're like beefing because of that, but they keep on running into each other because they have the same friends, so they're always together at these events, and they keep on running into each other, and it's really fun and funny. House of Glass and Dearest, these are both thrillers that kind of have to do with children. A Grim Reaper's Guide to Catching a Killer, this is a mystery where the main character is like a modern day Grim Reaper. She works for this company called Scythe, and she is tasked with finding out this mystery behind a young boy's death because he believes that he was wrongfully killed, so now she can't like transport his soul to where it needs to go. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Book 1, I don't know why, but it doesn't look like books 2 and 3 are included in premium, but this is a super fun YA mystery series, so if you want to try and get into it, you could listen to the first book. How I'll Kill You, this is one of my favorite thrillers. It actually has a lot more romance and is a lot more like romance driven than you would think for being a thriller book, but it is such beautiful writing and such a beautiful story. It's kind of fun with like the murders going on, as crazy as that sounds, but it's definitely a fun read, and it made me cry for some reason. The Only One Left, this is an amazing mystery thriller. The Silent Patient, I'm gonna say it one more time. If you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? An amazing thriller. And then all of my Freedom McFadden books I have, other than the Housemaid series, is on Spotify. But I have Never Lie. This is my favorite, Frida McFadden. And then we have The Coworker. And then The Wife Upstairs. This one's a lot like Verity. And then Ward D. And then The Inmate. And then my most recent Frida McFadden read is The Surrogate Mother. So there are all of the physical books that I have read that are on Spotify Premium under 15 hours. Please keep in mind that I am located in the United States, so this might differ based on where you are listening from, but if you're in the US, here's a lot of options for you for audiobook listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it helps you out a little bit. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content. I love making it. It is so fun. And it just means the world to me if you would subscribe and help support my channel. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!